what's up everyone, it's your girl Shay here, and in this Wednesday's video I'm actually going to be talking about reading and books, and I'm actually going to be listing 12 books that I thoroughly recommend to you guys that are really good books, and some of them are written in very interesting ways. Some of them are funny, some of them are sad, and one of them I'm still currently reading. So let's get started with this list. And before you ask why is there 12 and not like 10 or 5, because I couldn't narrow it down to 10, so that's why there's 12. And yeah, so let's get started. First book is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I actually did a blog post on this book, so check it out to know more. Definitely a wonderful story. There's 3 books in total, and I'm currently reading the second one. And as I've heard, there's actually going to be a movie based off of this book. The book talks about Laura Jean, and she writes notes or letters to all the boys that she's loved, and mysteriously they get sent out. So it talks about her dealing with the consequences or the revelations that this has with those letters being sent out. Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging by Louise Renison. Now, I read this book several times, as you can tell, because the cover is falling apart. But basically, it tells this tale of Georgia Nicholson, and it's written in the form of a diary, and basically it talks about her day-to-day life. She's living in England, so there is a lot of English like slang in here, but thankfully in the back of the book there is actually a dictionary, so you can see what it is that she actually means when she says certain words, which is pretty cool because the dictionary is written in the voice of Georgia Nicholson, so it's not like a weird, written in a monotone kind of voice. This book has 10 books in total, and I was so sad to see this series actually end, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. Also, to be warned, there isn't really anything bad in this book, but still, definitely check it out. Next book we have TTYL by Lauren Miracle. So TTYL talks about or is about 3 girls whom are best friends, one of whom actually just moves away, and it talks about their, them trying to keep in touch with each other, and you see the ups and downs of their relationship as it goes through the years. There's 4 books in total. Once again, it's TTFN, Later Grader, and I believe YOLO is the last one. I own 3 of the books out of the 4. The 4th one, YOLO, I actually bought as an ebook on my phone. And the best part is this book is written in IMs. So it's written in a very interesting way. And if you guys remember from my last video, I talked about AOL Instant Messenger, and I talked about how it was going away. So this book is very reminiscent of that. I actually read this book back when I was in like middle school, but I still recommend reading it even if you are older, because I don't know, it's just fun to get back into thinking that the stuff they're going through in this book you actually thought was like the end of the world if it happened. The next book I have is actually a manga, and it's Itazura na Kiss by Kaoru Tada. This is one of my favorite mangas and actually also one of my favorite animes. And the reason why is because it's about a girl named Kotoko, and she ends up moving in with Naoki, whom is her crush. Now the problem is Kotoko is kind of dumb and Naoki is quite smart. She has a crush on him, and it talks about the relationship as they go from high school crushes into adulthood. There's 10 volumes in total for this manga. There is supposed to be more, but currently the 11th one is not out yet. I don't know when it's being released. Definitely check it out. And there's also an anime for it as well that's about 24 episodes, so definitely watch that as well if you enjoy the manga or if you find it quite interesting. And there's also a live action of this as well. Next we have one of my favorite books, and that's called Romietta and Julio by Sharon M. Draper. Now this book is basically like a modern day Romeo and Juliet. I got this book when I was 13, and I read it several times because it's one of my favorite books, so definitely check it out. Once again, it's like a modern day Romeo and Juliet kind of a tale, but Romietta of course is the girl and Julio is of course the boy, but it also involves school gangs, and it also involves like news and stuff like that, so read it. So the next book I have is Battle Royale by Koshun Takami, and basically, yes, this is the original book that is based off or was turned into a live action movie. The book is definitely much better than the movie to me. There's parts in this book that don't happen in the movie, and there's parts in the book that actually are told in a different way, so I definitely do recommend it. It is a long and very thick book. I actually had to order this book on Amazon because I could not find it in stores. So definitely, if you have to get it, you'll have to get it that way. I don't think there's even an ebook version of this at all. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't already. And be forewarned, there is violence in this book. So if you're someone that's easily triggered by violence or doesn't like violence in books, probably don't want to read this. The next book I have is actually a series, and I don't have the first book, so I can only show you the third one, and that is the Hunger Games series. So I basically read all 3 of the Hunger Games books, and I've watched all of the movies, and I do like this series. I know there's a huge big deal about, which one's better, Hunger Games or Battle Royale, and honestly they're 2 completely separate series, and yeah, bottom line. So yeah, this is by Suzanne Collins also. I'm sorry I didn't say the author at the beginning, but yeah, definitely check out this series if you haven't already. You can find the books almost basically anywhere, as well as an ebook version. And the next book is also another series, and that is Harry Potter. This is the illustrated version of the books. I own the first 2. The third one just came out, but I do not have it yet. But I do own all 7 of the hardback copies of the Harry Potter series. Definitely read them. Such a huge fantasy. It's such a huge series. There's movies about them. There's tons of stuff about Harry Potter. So if you haven't read this yet, which at this point in time, I don't know many people that haven't read Harry Potter. So definitely read it if you haven't already. Now the next 3 books I'm going to talk about are actually ebooks. I own them on my phone, but not a physical copy, but let's talk about them anyway. The first one is Stolen by Lucy Christopher, and this book is about a young girl who's at the airport with her parents. She ends up getting kidnapped by a gentleman that's actually followed her since she was a young girl, and basically it talks about how she's surviving living with him. The interesting thing about this book though is that it is written as a form of a letter, so like it's basically written after she's been rescued, but it's once again the form of a letter to her kidnapper. So it's kind of interesting to see her thought process, that she went through while she was kidnapped with, this gentleman. The next book is going to be The Upside of the Unrequited by Becky Albertani. Now this book is about a girl who basically has had like 26 crushes, but has never actually dated anybody. And she also deals with anxiety, and basically it's a cute contemporary fiction story of her falling in love for the first time and dealing with, in some ways, some heartbreak, and also having to basically go through the motions of falling for someone for the first time. And I liked reading this book because I could totally put myself into the main character's shoes, just because she basically felt that she would never find anybody for her because she only ever had crushes. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't already. The next book is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and this book is about a girl named Eliza, and basically she made a web comic called Monstrous Sea that she is quite famous for and that so many people love. And then she ends up meeting this boy named Wallace, who actually writes fan fiction about her comic. The only downside is no one knows who Eliza is. Eliza's never basically told her real name online. So she basically deals with kind of falling for Wallace and also trying to think of whether or not she should actually tell Wallace whom she is, because Wallace doesn't even know. So you kind of see her go through this thought process, and you also start to see everything crumble once it gets to the end of the story. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. The last book I have is actually one that I'm still currently reading, and I'm about a little less than halfway through, almost halfway through, and this is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And basically it's about 6 criminals who go on a heist, and basically you're just trying to see if they're gonna make it in there and make it out alive, as well as without killing each other in the process. It's a really good book. It's a fantasy story, and I don't read fantasy a lot, as you can see. A lot of the books that I mostly read are either dystopian or they're romance, or, well, Harry Potter is kind of a fantasy, but it's also an adventure as well, I guess. And so definitely recommend it. This is the first one. There's also a sequel called Cricket Kingdom, which I also have as well. But basically, that's what it's mostly about. Now, there is one thing, the author Leigh Bardugo also came out with a trilogy called the Grisha series, and a lot of people it's set in the same world as that particular series. I've never read the Grisha series, and I can tell you now, you don't have to read those books to read this one. You won't there's nothing that you would not understand. So definitely also check this book out if you haven't already. So there you go. Those are 12 books that I recommend for you guys to definitely check out if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know what books are your favorite. Do you have a favorite book? Do you have a favorite genre of books that you like to read as well? And if you have read any of these books, comment down below on what you thought of these books. All right, you guys, I will see you guys Saturday with another video, and bye.